Stefan, hi.
Hi.
Thanks for your time. I really want to thank you and your people, Danish people, for your help. I know how important Denmark for us. It's one of our main actually allies in European Union. And what is your vision of so sincere support of Denmark, of my country, of Ukraine?
I think that it's much bigger than anything that we would normally support other countries with. I think because a lot of Danish people, the majority of Danish people, see this as an existential threat, as a war that if it's not only it is stopped in Ukraine, that can evolve into something much bigger, which potentially can threaten Denmark. I think the majority of Danish people see, including our politicians, see what's going on here in that way, that view. And that means, of course, that Denmark thinks it's very necessary to support Ukraine as much as they think is possible without triggering a war directly with Russia, which I think is a concern. I would say that, of course, the support for Ukraine in Denmark has changed a little bit in this now soon 2 years. And that has been partly because people are getting tired. I mean, as a journalist, I can also see that people are not reading so much about Ukraine anymore. But that being said, the majority of Danish people are still favoring both military and economic support and political support of Ukraine. Denmark is still supporting Ukraine a lot.
It's true, but you told me also a very important thing before our interview, that Denmark share the same values as the majority of the Europeans and Ukrainians. I mean, the values of Europe, of what is unfair and unfair. You also mentioned that you are our key allies of United States, which actually we also have. How important all these things for your society, for your vision of foreign policy?
Well, Denmark sees NATO as being the main pillar of security. So Denmark is investing a lot in that cooperation, and they see that as a security. So also when they look at Ukraine, they also see this as a threat against NATO and therefore also a threat against Denmark. That's one thing. So one thing is about the security aspect. But a lot of Danish people also see this as the defense of democracy, you can say. Is to say that this is, in many people's mind in Denmark, a very clear example of good and evil. Ukrainians being the good and Russia being the evils. There are some Danish people who do not see it this way, but the majority of people see it this way. And supporting Ukraine is supporting good, is supporting democracy. And a lot of people also see this as interconnected. That's to say that it's not only about Ukraine, it's also about stability in other parts of the world as well. That this is tied up to something bigger, what you can call the Western-led world order or democratic world order, whatever you call it, that they see it connected. So it's both a question of security and it's a question about values, you know, in who you support.
You told me previously that your country was trying and still trying to build up some kind of North Defense Union. And now you know that Ukraine signed a special agreement concerning the cooperation with Great Britain. I think this is a start of new era in security situation in the European Union and generally in Europe. So what do you think about how you see this North defense, if you can say some words about this possible new system of cooperation, I would say, between North countries and Baltic countries and Ukraine also?
As I understand it, Denmark, like any other country right now who is feeling under threat, is trying to find out how to secure itself. And for Denmark, I mean, NATO is the key here. I mean, that's America and that's Great Britain, for example. To strengthen those cooperations, to make sure that the NATO cooperation exists and that it's strong and that it can deter Russia, but not only Russia, also China potentially, or other, but in this, Denmark is trying to find its role because it's a small country. It's also about finding out what you should contribute. So there is a talk about how to increase the military spendings and what exactly to do and what actually should be Danish focal point. And that's of course going within the NATO cooperation. But there's also talk about how to strengthen cooperation with its neighbors. That's for example Norway and Sweden. also in kind of trying to find out how people you have a lot of history with for hundreds of years, thousands of years, how to cooperate with them. So I think like Denmark, like any other country, is right now trying to find out like the big lines about nature cooperation, but also trying to find out how you can make cooperation in small spheres, you can say.
Mm-hmm. And actually, thanks for your explanation of some political and regional things. But the most important thing, I think, this is communication with the people, between the people. And during the last 2 years, I saw a lot of humanitarian, political missions, social humanitarian cooperation between Danish society and Ukrainian society, between humanitarian organization of Denmark and Ukraine. What did you see in this cooperation? How important, how active and effective it is, and it was, and what is your mission in your activity, in your information field?
My job, as I see it, and that's since I graduated years ago, like I always seen as I should try to tell the stories that is not so easily told, or not told so much, you can say. And that's why I moved here at 1st of May 2019 with my colleague, was to say that the war was going on in the East, even though it was not at all as active as it is now. And not a lot of information about what was going on, and not a lot of voices were being heard of the people living close to the front line, or the contact line as they called it, in cities like what is now called New York, Toretsk, Avdiivka, all these places. It was to try to give them a voice. So that has been my job, as I see it, when I previously worked in Egypt, when I moved to Ukraine, was to give a voice to those people. And I don't think that has changed. That is still what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to find ways to tell people's story, and I'm very interested in specifically the people who are not normally heard.
How important to network between? I saw that you wrote a lot of in Danish language, so you show this situation to the Danish society. Also, you network with a lot of your colleagues from Denmark. How this networking between two societies is important?
No, I mean, when you're in a foreign country, I mean, you often try to find help and guiding by the people that is like from your home, you can say. So we do the same. Danish journalists do the same. They try to help each other. They share maybe contacts, they give hints about how to do it. But I want to strengthen that, to stress that it's not only a matter of doing that with people from Denmark. I also find very helpful to talk to Ukrainian journalists, who are also very helpful in trying to, it can be everything. It can be from like helping with contacts and the other way around, or it can also be about where to stay. Like you have to think about that. It's like when you, for example, just have to live somewhere in Donbass where you sleep while you're reporting out there. Certain things like that you have to consider where it's safe to be. And there everybody is using each other to find out where is the safe place to be to avoid getting hit by a Russian missile while you sleep. So there's a lot of cooperation going on, everything from security-wise to like the contacts, to understand how the country works, etc. It's a lot of things.
What are your plans for this year? To make more reports, to make to be more focused on the specific issues. You know that this year will be not so easy. It will be a complicated year, not only for Ukraine, for Europe also, because of the war. And I actually don't believe in the fast end of this war. Unfortunately, I see a very long-term conflict. So, what is your plans actually?
I would like to spend even more time close to the front line, but I think that's not something that has changed. So that will be the same thing in this year, in 2024. But I think what is very interesting, both for Ukrainian society, but also for Danish people to understand, is when the invasion began, the full-scale invasion began, I witnessed how Ukrainian people came together, helped each other in multiple ways. You saw how normal people were making Molotov cocktails in Lviv, far away from the actual fighting. You saw society come together. Now you are starting to see some cracks in this. some men who do not want to go to the front line and is actively trying to avoid it, either by hiding in their apartments or homes, not living at their registered addresses, buying fake medical records to leave the country or to be exempt from military service. And you see also, besides from that, some people being tired. For obvious reasons. Like, I think everybody in Ukraine are tired, and that's understandable. And for example, a few days ago, it's not the first time, there's a small demonstration on Maidan of the families of soldiers who has been since 2 years, almost 2 years at the front line, asking for them to be demobilized.
Replaced.
Yeah, and Ukraine has a problem with the mobilization system. That's no secret. The politicians are discussing it, experts are discussing it, people are discussing it. So there are some cracks in this, and as this is that the counteroffensive was not giving the results that Danish people and Ukrainian people were hoping for, this is going to turn into a long war, as it looks like, right?
Long-term conflict.
Yeah, a long, bloody one. And there's questions about how Ukraine is going to make sure that the people are willing to fight for that long. And that question is very interesting to explore in a number of different ways, to hear the people who do not want and why, and hear the people who want and how they see that some people don't want. I mean, there's a lot of aspects. I think that's a very, very important question. It's crucial if Ukraine wants to continue to believe in victory and in the long run. They need to somehow fix this. And for Danish people to understand what's going on in Ukraine, it's very crucial to understand this, because it's something that's happening, a discussion.
Thank you for your sincere answers, for your support of Ukraine, and I hope we will meet soon and we will make another interview also. Thank you very much.
Welcome.